The reason I like this subject so well is because it is a very clean part of our business. Buying defaulted paper quite often doesn't have anything to do with owning property. What we're going to do now is explore the business of buying paper that is in foreclosure. We're not going to buy the property, but we're going to buy the lien against that property. In fact, we're going to even talk about buying paper that isn't mortgages, things like liens, things like judgments. Did you know that you could buy all those things? Did you know that anybody who holds a lien on a property or anybody who owns a judgment on a property is more than likely willing to sell that lien for cash at a discount? Did you know that anybody who is foreclosing on a property and owns the mortgage is very apt to just as soon have somebody come in and write them a check for some portion of the balance that they're owed and let them be out of it? And that individual now owns that mortgage, and then it's up to them to foreclose or whatever they want to do on it. Defaulted paper is an incredible opportunity. It is an incredible opportunity because, number one, it's so easy to find. It's not hard to find mortgages or property that are in foreclosure, and you can go buy the paper instead of buying the property. It's not hard to find people who own judgments and liens who will sell them for pennies on the dollar. It's not hard to find people who would rather have the money than to do all the work to exercise their rights to collect that money. When you understand your rights, when you have the knowledge to win no matter what happens, put yourself in a no-lose position, it is a cash flow generator that is unbelievable. What is it? A mortgage, lien, judgment, or any other debt instrument that contains the right for the holder to foreclose if in default. Now understand, the only kind of paper that we want to buy in this course is paper that, if we have to, we can foreclose on the property if we don't collect on the note or the judgment or whatever. So make sure you understand this. I'm not interested in unsecured paper. I'm only interested in paper that has resulted in a lien on a house or a property. That's the only kind of paper we're talking about. All right. Why would I want to buy this defaulted paper? What would I hope to gain? Well, let me see if I can explain to you why it's profitable for you to do just that. I'm going to give you a couple of real live examples. Not too long ago, a bank called me. In fact, this was an out-of-state bank. Somehow got wind that I buy properties and that I might buy paper, and they called me on a second mortgage that they held on a property. The second mortgage that was owed to the bank was $16,000. $16,000 was what the owner of the property owed this bank on a second mortgage. There was a first mortgage on the property for $20,000. FHA, low interest, old non-qualifying loan on it. The bank, this property, by the way, this loan was in default. In addition to the $20,000, here the owner of the property owed $2,000 in back payments on the first. They were $2,000 in arrears. Obviously, if they were $2,000 in arrears on the first, they were equally in arrears on the second. I think the face value of the second was $14,000, but by the time they added the arrears, it was $16,000. I was buying a piece of paper that had $16,000 owed on it by the owner of the house, regardless of how we arrived at that number. The bank called me and they said, "Ron, I understand that you buy paper that's in default." And this gal's name, see if I can remember her, Donna. Her name was Donna. And I said, "Yes, Donna, sometimes I do. What do you got for me?" She says, "Well, we got this property down in Jacksonville. Has a $20,000 first mortgage on it. There are $2,000 arrears on that. We have a $16,000 second mortgage. I'd like for you to go out and look at the property, and we want $10,000 for that second mortgage." Now understand, the first mortgage holder was foreclosing on the property. What kind of position did that put the bank in? Second position. They either had to bring the first current to protect their interest or get wiped out. So you understand their position, don't you? All right? They called me and they decided they'd rather just sell the paper for $10,000 and be done with it. I said, okay, I'll go take a look. I went out and looked. Couldn't get in the house. Couldn't get in the house. But I saw that the house was in pretty darn good shape. Needed almost no work from what I could see. It did look in the windows. I also learned while I was out there that the property had an ARV on it of approximately $50,000. And of course it was financed for $36,000. Based on that, I went back and I said, Donna, there's no way in the world I can give you $10,000 for a mortgage that is in default. There's a $20,000 first and there's $2,000 in the rear on that. And she says, well, what will you give me? I said, the most I'd be able to give you is $5,000. He says, Ron, they can't accept that. They won't accept that. I said, well, Donna, I don't want to pay any more than that. You go back and tell them that I'll give them $5,000 and just let me know. And it must have been 10 to 15 days later when I got to thinking about Donna, because she never did call me back. And I picked up the phone and I called Donna. And I said, Donna, you were supposed to call me back. What happened? She says, Ron, yeah, I'm glad you called because I was just getting ready to call you. I said, sure you were, Donna. She says, the bank turned down your offer of $5,000, but I got a feeling that if you'll up your offer, they will probably take something that makes sense. I said, okay, Donna, you tell the bank that I'm going to go $6,000 on that note, but not one dime more. If they want more than that, I don't even want to hear about it. She said, okay, I'll tell them. Next day she called me back and says, Ron, they've accepted your offer. They'll take $6,000 for this note. I said, all right, Donna, here's what we got to do. You got to send me, or send to my title company, an assignment of mortgage. She said, you mean a satisfaction, don't you? This is a bank talking to me. I said, Donna, if you send me a satisfaction, you've got nothing to sell me. You don't have a mortgage anymore. If you satisfy it, it doesn't exist. She did not understand that. And maybe some of you don't either. She thought she had to send me a satisfaction of mortgage. You see, if the mortgage got satisfied, it's faded into oblivion. There is no more mortgage if a satisfaction is recorded. I didn't want a satisfaction. I wanted an assignment of mortgage. In other words, she's selling the mortgage to me. She's assigning all the interest in it to me. There's a big difference, folks. There's a big difference. And I still couldn't make her understand what I was talking about. I said, Donna, don't worry about it. I'll have my title company send you the assignment of mortgage. You guys sign it and send it back. As soon as they get it back, I'll have a check there and they'll send you the money. Is that okay? She says, yeah, that's fine. That's exactly what I had to do. I had to get my title company to prepare the assignment of mortgage. Now, before I did all this, by the way, I had her send me all the information she had on this loan. She sent me a copy of the note and a copy of the mortgage, and she told me how far they were behind and all that information. And I had my title company check the title. I didn't even need title insurance. They just checked the title. Okay? And I knew that the title was okay except for these two loans against the property. In the meantime, I had them, and after that, I had them send her an assignment of mortgage. They signed it, sent it back to the title company, and I delivered a check for $6,000 to the title company, and which they delivered it to the bank. The bank is now out of it. They have nothing else to do with it. They've sold the mortgage to me for $6,000. Okay. Now, why in the world would I want to buy a $6,000 mortgage on a property that was in foreclosure for $6,000? All right. Let me tell you what my intentions were. If I bought this mortgage, by the way, for $6,000, What am I owed if they were to pay me off? $16,000. Okay? Now, if I would have got paid off as planned by either refinancing them or selling it or whatever, that would have been a sweet $10,000 profit without ever touching the property, wouldn't it? Okay? Now, however, I finally went out to see these guys, and boy, I thought I was going to go get them refinanced, or I was going to pull one of these rabbits out of my hat. And man, their credit really stunk big time. And there was no way that I could get them refinanced based on any kind of resemblance of credit because the loan-to-value ratio was too high. Private mortgage wouldn't work because the loan-to-value ratio was too high. I could not get them refinanced. I tried to buy them out of the house. Because remember now, they still own the house. I only bought the mortgage. I didn't buy the house. So I tried to buy them out of the house. I said, look, I'll give you $3,000 if you'll be out of here by the end of the month and deed me the house. They wouldn't do it. They just knew. In fact, I remember their words distinctly. They said, we're not concerned. They left me no choice but to go down and file foreclosure on them. And I did. And about 4 months later, we got right up to the day before the sale. And they filed Chapter 13. Reorganization. I said, okay, I've seen this trick before, no problem. They filed Chapter 13. And, by the way, whose idea was that? Theirs or their attorneys? Their attorneys, naturally. They filed Chapter 13. So the judge issued an order that they would, from that day forward, Chapter 13 is reorganization, incidentally, in case you didn't know. The judge says, okay, from now on you start making your regular monthly payment. You must have a payment to this person within 30 days. Okay, and that was the order. And in addition to that, my attorney submitted an order that within the next 6 months, they start making payments on their arrearage to me as well. So I said, all right, if that's the worst case scenario, they'll start making their payments, and then eventually they'll start making up the back payments, and I'll have $6,000 in this thing, and it'll be a tremendous return. By the way, I didn't even put up the money. I had a partner put up the $6,000. All right, anyway, Chapter 13. They said, okay, 30 days go by. Guess what? They didn't make me a payment. That thus ended their Chapter 13. You see, when they file Chapter 13 and they make a deal and they don't live by that deal, they're back into default all over again. So we reinstigated the foreclosure and started it right back up from where we left off it, which was our right. The minute we did that, they lost the right to make any payments on this house, period. Okay? Now we got them right up to foreclosure again, which only took about another 30 days. Day before, they switched from Chapter 13 to Chapter 7. These attorneys are slick. I'm telling you. By the way, you know how to find a good attorney? Just get a shovel and start digging. I said, this is a neat trick. First time I had this one pulled on me. But anyway, the moral of the story is it didn't take long. Within the next 2 months, because we were able to continue on with the foreclosure, even though they filed Chapter 7, did not stop us from foreclosing on the house. And for your information, it does not. It only slows it down. Does not in any way jeopardize the debt. You still have the right to proceed. They just slow it down a little bit. It took us 9 months total to get these folks foreclosed on. But we finally foreclosed on them. And they had 10 days to get out of the house and before we were delivered clear title. Or at that time they had 10 days to redeem the house. They did not do it naturally. So we wound up owning the house. Now, what did we have in this house? We had $6,000 that we paid for the mortgage. We had $1,500 in foreclosure costs. Along about here somewhere or other, I can't remember when, we made the first current, paid the $2,000 to bring the first current. Okay? So we had 6 in it, 15 in it, $2,000 in it. After they got out of the house, we spent 5 more on it to repair it. So we got 6, 7, 8, 5, 13, 14, 5 in the house. Okay? There was a $20,000 first mortgage on it. So in fact, we were into the house for $34,500. We sold the house for $55,000 after we got through fixing it up. So it's kind of a back door into buying the house. Now, I didn't really want it to work out that way. I didn't plan it to work out that way, but I knew when I bought this $6,000 mortgage that there's no way I could lose. That's all I really needed to know at that point, isn't it? There's no way I could lose. So I think we netted about 15 grand on that house. I would have much rather netted this 10 and got paid off and been done with it. It would have been a lot easier, okay, in that case. But let me tell you about another story now. Yes.
It took 9 months to get them out.
Only because of the bankruptcy nonsense.
First running along that same kind of payments on the first?
The first was running. We made the first current, but the payments were so low that I think they were $100 and some odd a piece. We did incur another $1,000 or so cost there in paying the first. That's why we only netted 15, because I didn't use a realtor to sell it. We sold it, and our costs were very minimal.
How'd you take care of the 20? Did you buy that?
The 20 we made payments on while we were holding. We brought current to keep them from foreclosing. The 20 was paid off when we sold the house and got our buyer a new loan. Okay? When you're in second position, you don't have to pay off the first, contrary to most people's belief. You just have to keep them from foreclosing you out. No, the first was current. We made the first current and kept it current.
Well, that first is not assumable. What's that do to you?
Nothing. Nothing.
Even though it went out of their hands into you?
But it did that by foreclosure.
Okay, that doesn't upset the...
It possibly could. The lender could call the loan due. Again, that's the last thing in the world the lender wants to do is call a loan due. He wants somebody to bring it current. What if they'd have called it due?
Get the house he doesn't want.
No. Are you crazy? I got $6,000 in this Hummer. He ain't getting this house. No way.
You can't call that due, right?
What if he called it due and I was broke and I didn't have any more money? You think I could get a private lender and make me a $20,000 loan on a $55,000 house? I believe so. What do you think? That's the worst case scenario, isn't it? Now, what do you say?
I don't think that the first can call the loan due because all you're doing is protecting your interests.
It don't make any difference what you think. The law is the law, and I know of no law that prohibits the first from calling the loan due because you foreclosed on it to protect your interests. Your interests are not their concern.
No, it's to bring them current.
Okay, I'm just telling you. By the way, did they have to take my payments? No, they could call the loan due. They didn't have to. Do you know that when you get in default on a loan that the lender does not have to take your payments? You get one payment behind. They don't have to take your payment. They have the right to call the loan due. In any mortgage. You remember that, private lenders. You remember why you're in control. If your borrower gets 1 month behind, now it's up to you whether you want them to reinstate or not. There might be a fee to reinstate. What do you think? You don't want to reinstate, Wendell? No problem. I'll just call it due. If you do want to reinstate, get me a couple $100 for a reinstatement fee. By the way, if you charge that one time, you think he's going to get in default again? No. Of course, he's going to, you're going to be labeled as a loan shark, and probably rightfully so. But he's going to think twice about getting behind again, isn't he? Question.
Technically speaking, if you're curing the first and you get paid off on your second, you recover that?
Yeah. Any money that you spend to cure the first, you're entitled to recover when you get paid off on your second. Any attorney's fees, any costs, any accruing interest, any late charges, any prepayment penalty that is in your second, you are entitled to recapture at the time you get paid off. Who else had a question back there? Yes.
What are the chances of that the bank holding the first mortgage and having them discount that?
It was an FHA loan, and we had to bring it current because they were foreclosing on it, and they'd have wiped us out. See, if they started the foreclosure before we did, a good chance they would have got to the sale before we did. And if you even let an FHA lender get too close to the sale, they won't take the payments current many times. They'll want it all paid off. Once they get a judgment, they usually won't allow you to bring it current anymore. Sometimes they will. Sometimes they won't.
Can't you protect your position by bidding at the sheriff's sale?
I could protect my position by bidding at the sheriff's sale, but why would I want an 8.5% loan to go away in the process? No way. When I bid at the sheriff's sale, I got to come up with $20,000 to pay them off, plus the attorney's fees that were added on there and all that nonsense. Believe me, we did the right thing. Bring it current and make the payments on it until we got the house sold. Okay? Now, I got that one done. Yes.
Have you ever discounted FHA or VA?
Yes. But usually when that happens, they are in miserable condition when I do that, and they're aware of it. And even when they do discount, they sure ain't gonna. They don't want to do much. They don't want to do much. If you've got a property that is just totally a mess, and they've got a loan on it, you stand a good chance of getting them to discount by asking. I told you, wagging your tongue. Very highly paid profession. The most they can say is no.
Ron, did your attorney ask the judge to have them pay the monthly payments to the court?
Oh, sure.
Arbitrary. You did ask.
Yeah, I believe he did, yeah. In this case, it didn't matter because they didn't intend to pay monthly payments when they made the deal to begin with.
That was a good stroke.
Yeah. Yeah, their attorney guided them right on through, and he did the right thing for them. He pulled some of the same scumball tactics out that we have to use sometimes. Do you have a question?
Yeah, did you have to refile the foreclosures after?
You have to reinstigate it. You don't start all over. Okay? If you don't start all over. You see, if they don't abide by the rules that they agreed to do in the Chapter 13, you can just continue on with it. Your attorney can do all that nonsense for you. You don't have to know every step of the way, know all these aspects. Now, I got that one solved, and the same bank called me on another one. This was a much smaller one. They said, Ron, we got a house almost in that same area as that other one was, and it was too. It's right around the corner. I don't know what it is about that area. Concrete block house. I went over there. Well, first let me give you the details. Strangely enough, they said there's a $20,000 FHA first on this property, and strangely enough, it's $2,000 in arrears. Same numbers. But in this case, we have a $6,000 second, counting the arrearage. And we need $1,500 for it. Okay? I goes over and looks at the house, and it's worth about $52,000 as well. Except this house has a rotten carport. I mean, the carport is caved in. So I just assumed that the rest of the house inside was like it because I couldn't get in. And I just assumed it needed a lot of repairs. And what I found out later was that the gal that owned the house, in fact, the inside of the house was immaculate. She just didn't have the money to fix the carport. She figured she'd better have it raining outside than inside. So she kept the house in shape, let the carport just go. You know, she didn't park her car under it. I mean, there were rocks laying on the concrete and everything where it just caved in, so rotten. Okay, I goes out and looks at the house. I called Donna up and I said, Donna, you must be kidding me. This house is in miserable condition, and you're trying to sell me this thing for $1,500. By the time I spend the $10,000 on that house that it needs, I'd be in a hole. She says, yeah, we know it's in bad shape. Somebody else had drove by and saw the carport hanging. I said, okay, well, listen, what are you going to do? I'm not going to give you no $1,500 for that $6,000 note. She says, well, make us an offer. I said, you won't like it. She said, well, make it anyway. I said, $300. She says, are you kidding me? I said, Donna, we've been through this before. She says, all right, I'll ask him. And the very next morning, she called back and says, we'll take it. $300. I said, okay, Donna, I know the routine right now. I'll send you the paperwork. She says, great. And I did the same thing. We sent it up there, had her sign it, sent it back, and I delivered the $300 to my title company. Okay? Then I goes out, and I finally gets in the house. And I sit down, and I'm talking to this lady. It was a young, single lady with 2 children. Her husband had just evaporated. Just left her with all the bills and all the mess. And she don't even know what happened. He just came up and said, I'm leaving, and never came back. And boy, I'll tell you what, I sat down with her. By the time I left that house, I was in tears. Sad, sad story. Well, almost, Larry. Almost in tears.
Hard time believing that, too.
and she says, you know, I really love this house. You know, the fact that she liked the house so much and wanted to stay and hadn't give up convinced me to work with her and not work. It was a different story than the other couple. They just didn't want to work with me. They didn't want to do nothing. They're going to have it their way or no way. Okay? This gal wanted me to help her out, begged me to help her out. I told her I just bought her mortgage. I said, okay, here's what we can do. My information shows that you're $2,000 behind on the first. She says, no, sir, I'm not $2,000 behind. I paid that money. I said, okay, well, I'll check that out tomorrow then, because I just knew she was lying to me. I called the attorney's office tomorrow that was foreclosing and found out she was $218 short of having the entire rearage paid. So I went back out to see her and I said, listen, I can see you really want to keep this house. Put another $218 in there by Friday so we can get that first mortgage caught up, and here's what I'll do for you. If you catch the first up, I don't want any of your money. You owe me $6,000. I'll take actually she only owed me $4,500 on principal, okay, or something like that. I'll say I'll take all your back due payments and your interest and so forth, and I'll add them on to the loan, which will bring it up to about $6,000. You've been paying $149 a month on your second mortgage, so what we'll do is we'll just let you keep right on paying the same $149. I'll just extend the term. By the way, the second mortgage was written at 16%. That's what the banks charged for the loan. I'll just let you extend the term. She says, that would be great. I said, all right, that's what we'll do under the condition that you pay the other $218, you get that taken care of, and that you pay the closing costs of doing the mortgage modification agreement. Mortgage modification agreement. That's nothing but one sheet of paper that says the terms of the mortgage that was recorded in blank date in this public records, in this volume, and this page, has now been modified to read, this is the new interest rate, this is the new payment, and this is the new whatever. One little piece of paper that any closing agent can complete. I had my closing agent take care of that, and she went down and signed it and paid the little old cost of getting that job done. So now we're in a new ball game. The first is brought current. I own this $6,000 piece of paper secured by this $52,000 house. I've got $300 in it total, and she owes me $149.25 a month forever or so. This has been 3 years ago now. She's been paying $149 a month for the past 3 years. What kind of return is that for a $300 investment? Huh? Pretty good return, isn't it? 50% a month, right, Gary? That's a pretty darn good return. I chose to keep that mortgage. I don't even think I wanted to sell it. She's still doing it right up to this day. Now, she's been behind a couple times, and she was late a few times, and so forth and so on, but she always caught it up. If you can raise the money to buy defaulted paper, I'm suggesting to you that it might be a nice little business for you to get involved in. Looking for it. Deliberately seeking it out and finding it and buying it at a discount. What is the criteria for you to buy defaulted paper? Again, could it have been a judgment on this property that I bought instead of a mortgage? In fact, could I buy a judgment usually much cheaper than I can buy the mortgage? Yeah, most people don't have a clue on how to exercise on a judgment. By the way, do you need to know? Do you need to know the steps to exercise on a judgment and foreclose on the property? No. All you need to know is that you can do it. You let your attorney take care of all that nonsense. That's why you hire professionals. Same with any other kind of a lien on the property that can be foreclosed. Come on up here. You got to get on microphone so they can hear you. All right. While she's doing that, let's talk about the criteria. First of all, your purchase price plus the cost of foreclosure should put you in the property at a very low loan-to-value ratio. Folks, that's probably the only criteria to determine whether you want to buy the paper or not, isn't it? Other than the price, of course. If the loan-to-value ratio is so low you just can't possibly lose, it's a good candidate for you to buy. Now, the loan-to-value ratio, is it determined by the face of the amount of the note or by what you pay for the note? What you pay for the note. If I'm buying an $80,000 mortgage on a $90,000 property and I can buy it for $25,000, is that a good loan-to-value ratio? You better believe it. Matter of fact, I'll take all them you get, by the way. Come on over here. This is Phyllis Curtis. Phyllis Curtis is a real estate broker from Fort Lauderdale area. She's also a very active investor, and she's also a many-time graduate of many other boot camps, and she's also a serious investor. Tell us about what you did just recently with a tax deed. I'll hold them.
I mentioned to Ron before that I do a lot with tax deeds and foreclosures, and about 120 days ago, I bought a piece of property at a tax deed sale, and Ron said this morning the IRS never redeems it. This particular property had a $73 million IRS lien, which doesn't make a lot of difference in the tax deed because everything is wiped out except municipal liens in the state of Florida.
And IRS liens.
And IRS liens, but they have 120 days to redeem it. And at the sale, the IRS was there. Apparently they're getting a lot more active in following up their delinquent accounts, and this one had a $73 million lien on it. I don't know what the guy was into, except he had left for South America. And
if I owe an IRS $73 million, I'd probably leave too.
the price was $47,000. It's probably worth. It was in disrepair, but probably worth $200 or so. It was on the water.
All right,
it was a nice house on the water.
Let's bring that out now. $200,000 house on the water. She bought the tax deed for $47,000. Is that why IRS got involved? Tons and tons of equity in the property. Now, they were at the sale, but they didn't buy it at the sale, did they?
No, they just handed me...
When did they buy it?
They handed me their card at the sale.
Right.
They redeemed it yesterday, day 119.
On day 119, they redeemed it. Just ruined her day. Ruined her day, didn't it?
Sure did.
Sure did. Thank you. Yes.
They pay it to the county, and they notify me, and when the county gets around to it, they'll pay me my money back. Plus 10%, but you know, if you're in Florida and you're putting insurance on a waterfront property after Hurricane Andrew, that 10% is.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Oh boy, you just can't win them all, can you? She had that property already sold in her mind, probably ready to move into it, wasn't you?
What would they do with the property then?
Oh, they'll go sell it. They'll have an IRS sale, or they'll hire a broker to sell it. Sure. Or they'll hire a broker to sell it. Well, it ain't going to make much of a dent in $73 million, but it's a more of a dent than they would have made if they let her out of the house, isn't it? You know?
They probably captured all of his...
Oh, sure. They captured all of his assets that they could find. Watch the IRS sale. Is that a good idea to buy things from IRS at an auction? Is it a good idea?
Doesn't always work out.
It's a good idea if you want to be in there for the long haul because you don't get title for 6 months. At an IRS auction, they got 6 months to redeem the property, the previous owner. So, if you want to flip it quickly, that's not a good place to buy them, but if you want them for keepers, maybe so.